Hey, it's Mr. Wells, and it's time for your literature lesson today. Attached to this on your Google Classroom, you should find a copy of this story. This is excerpts from the novel Crash by Jerry Spinelli, and we're going to use this today. Last time when we talked about literature, we were talking about close reading, which is basically the idea that we're reading something really to analyze it and learn from it. And when we're close reading, we look for things called signposts. And signposts are basically clues that the author gives you about something important going on in the story. And so we look for those clues or signposts as we're reading to try to tell us what the author is saying and to help us ask certain questions about what we're reading so that we can understand it better. Now, in the last lesson, I talked to you about the first signpost, which is contrasts and contradictions. And contrasts and contradictions is when the character says or does something that you don't expect. Okay, so I think in our example, we talked about, trying to think now, the story we read, we used the story of Yes, Ma'am, and we didn't expect the lady, Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, to help Roger, the young boy, but she did. So when we see that, a contrast and contradiction, we always want to ask one question, and that is why? Why is the character acting this way? So that's what we talked about before. And as part of your assignment, you started filling this out. This was your notice and note sheet. Okay, so you were marking that in your story. Now, you can use the same one. I will go ahead and post another copy of this along with this assignment for today's lesson on your Google Classroom, but we're going to be filling this out in much the same way that we did the other one. So today, though, we're going to be talking about the second signpost. And the second signpost is called an aha moment. And I want you to think, I want you to imagine, like the light bulb, above my head here going off. And it's when all of a sudden I realize something that I never realized before. So somewhere in your notes on the top of this sheet or wherever, you can write this definition because you'll want to know this definition. An aha moment, okay, is when the character realizes something he or she has never thought of before. It's when the character realizes something he or she has never thought of before. All right, and so what happens then is when we see that, and it's a lot of times easy to spot because the author will usually give us some really easy clue, like it says, the character suddenly realized that, or all of a sudden I knew that, something like that, using words like realized or knew or discovered. Those type of words will sort of clue you in that we're seeing an aha moment. The character is realizing something that he or she has never realized before. And when you see that, you want to ask yourself this question. And you want to ask yourself the question, how? How might this change things? Because a lot of times this ends up being a turning point in the story, or it ends up being something that really even affects the theme of the story, tells you what the story is all about. And so we want to ask, how might this change things? So make sure you have that written down. You have the aha moment, and you have the definition is when the character realizes something he or she has never thought of before. And the question, when you see it, you want to ask, how might this change things? And of course, you're learning remotely, so you have the benefit of being able to pause me and rewind me. Miss Torres, the paraprofessional over here, she probably wishes she could sometimes pause me during class, but she's not a remote learner. So Miss Torres is in the classroom right now working on some things. So, and now you're a YouTube star.
Yay.
Okay, so let's look at the story. Now, this is from the novel Crash by Jerry Spinelli. And in this, we have this boy, and we'll call him Crash. He's interesting boy. This is a story that I find interesting because it's a story about a boy that gets bullied. But it's not what you would expect because the story is written from the perspective of the bully. In other words, you might expect if we were going to tell a story about somebody being bullied, we might have, the person saying, well, I was bullied, and then all of a sudden the bully comes along and he's the bad guy. But in this case, it's the bully telling the story, and we get to see and experience what is in the bully's mind as he goes through this. So this is where we'll start, and in this part of the story at the very beginning is when Crash meets a boy named Webb for the first time, and this is when he decides he's going to start bullying this kid. So let's read it together. It was a sunny summer day. Wait a minute. Now remember, we're looking for aha moments. We're looking for a point when the character realizes something that he's never realized before. Okay. It was a sunny summer day. I was in the front yard digging a hole with my little red shovel. I heard something like whistling. I looked up. It was whistling. It was coming from a funny-looking, dorky little runt walking up the sidewalk. Only he wasn't just walking regular. He was walking like he owned the place, both hands in his pockets, sort of swaying la-di-da with each step, strolling and gawking at the houses and whistling a happy little dorky tune like some Sneezy or Snoozy or whatever their names are. And he wore a button, a big one. It covered about half his chest, which wasn't that hard since his chest was so scrawny. So here he comes, strolling, whistling, gawking, buttoning, dorking up the sidewalk, onto my sidewalk, my property, and all of a sudden I knew what I had to do. Like there was a big announcement coming from the sky. Don't let him pass. All right, I'll give you a minute here to look and see what you think the signpost is here, okay? Where's the aha moment where the character realizes something he's never realized before? The place where it is where he says, all of a sudden, I knew what I had to do. And what was it he was going to do? Well, he was going to not let him pass. In other words, he was going to start tormenting this kid. He was going to start bullying Webb. We find out later that this kid's name is Webb. Okay, so you want to write that down as your first signpost. So you'll put the page, just like we did before, you'll put the page number, paragraph number on the location. You want to mark it if you're using the same sheet for more than one story. Make sure you mark on the first one at least. Okay, I've gone to the story Crash. So we want Crash. The signpost, you're going to put an aha moment. Now you can use the abbreviation if you want. Now the abbreviation for contrast and contradictions was CC. CC for contrast and contradictions. For aha moment, we use 2 exclamation marks. 2 exclamation marks is an aha moment. Okay? But you can just put aha moment if you want on here, the signpost. And my notes about it, you're just going to put this in your own words, but it's going to be something to the effect of, he said, all of a sudden I knew what I had to do. Don't let him pass. He decided that he was going to start bullying the other kid. Now this one, it is very easy to spot where it is. This one, it just gives it right away for you because it says, it uses one of these key phrases, all of a sudden I knew. You can tell by the character realizes something. Not only that, it goes even further. It makes it even more clear for you. It says, like there was a big announcement coming down from the sky. Okay? So there it's showing you, okay, he's realizing something. He's thinking about something here. Okay? All right, so that was your first signpost. Now let's go on to a second part of the story. Now this comes later in the novel. And by this point, we have Crash and Webb are both on the track team together. And the thing about it is, Crash is a pretty good runner, but Webb is not so good. But one thing that's happened is Webb has a great-grandpa who is visiting from North Dakota. And his great-grandpa is going to see him race for the first time. And so what happens here is Crash knows that Webb's great-grandpa, who is Henry Wilhide Webb III, is here, and he starts thinking about his own grandpa. Now, his own grandpa's nickname was Scooter, and he was really close to his grandpa. And so he's thinking about Webb's grandpa, and he's thinking about his own grandpa, and he's thinking about all of this just as the race is getting ready to start. Okay, so let's read it together. The stands were empty. A school bus moved in the distance beyond the football goalpost. Under the crossbar and between the uprights, like in a framed picture, stood three people. For once, Webb's parents didn't look so old, not compared to the man standing between them. He was shorter than them and real skinny, like the prairie winds were eroding him away. But he was standing straight and by himself. No cane, no walker, just two legs. 93 years old. Maybe it was the Missouri River mud. The thought came to me. They would have liked each other. Scooter and Henry Wilhide Webb III, two storytellers, both from the great flat open spaces, one a prairie of grass, one of water. Both came to watch when no one else was there. All right, so what's the aha moment here? Okay, if you said that the aha moment was when he says, the thought came to me that these two men would have liked each other, that the grandpa and the great grandpa, they would have liked each other if they'd known each other, then you're right. That's your aha moment, because he realizes something he had never realized before. The thought comes to him, these two men would like each other. So you can make a note of that, on your notice and note log. You can put the location of it, okay, what page and what paragraph it is, and then your signpost is an aha moment, two exclamation marks, and then your notes about it, you say something. He realized that his grandpa and Webb's great grandpa could have been friends. Now, we know that's a signpost, we've seen it, but it should cause us to ask a question. How might this change things? I wish that we were in class together, because if we were in class together, I could ask you and I could see what your thinking is. Okay, because there are different ways that it might change things. But what I'm thinking is he might decide that he could be friends with Webb. I mean, after all, if he realizes that his grandpa and Webb's great grandpa could have been friends, well, why couldn't he be friends with him? So that might change things. They might go from a bullying relationship to a friendship. We don't know yet. We'll have to read on and we'll have to see. Okay, let's go. Second page. Why exactly was he here? Did he know about me? Did he know his great-grandson could not win the race off and so would not run in the pin relays? I wondered if Webb felt safe in his grandfather's bed. The cinder track crunched under my feet. There were 5 of us in the race. Me, Webb, 2 other 7th graders, and a 6th grader. The coach put us in lanes. Me and Webb were side by side. Again, he hadn't said a word to me all day. We milled around behind the starting blocks, nervous, shaking out our arms and legs, everything as quiet as if the coach had already said, ready. The other team members, jumpers, throwers, distance runners, had all stopped their practicing to watch. A single hawk, its wingtips spread like black fingers, kited over the school, and suddenly I saw something. A gift for a great-grandfather from North Dakota, maybe for all great-grandfathers. But the thing was, only one person could give the gift. And it wasn't the great-grandson, not on his fastest day alive. It was me. I hated it being me. I tried not to see, but everywhere I looked, there it was, the gift. All right. So I'll give you a second, and you can pause too if you need more time. But I want you to write down what you think in your notice and note log is the aha moment here. Okay. Write down the aha moment. You'll put the location and the aha moment, and then you'll put what you think it is, your notes about it. All right. When you have done that, then I'll just say this. This one is a little trickier. And it might be a little tricky for you because he sees something. Okay? And some of you might think that that's not an aha moment, that it's just a description of fact. If I say I opened the window and I saw the sunrise, that's not an aha moment. I didn't realize anything. I just saw the sunrise. And here he sees something, but it says, suddenly I saw something, a gift. Well, did he really look up at the sky and see an actual gift in the sky? No, he didn't. So where did he see the gift? Well, he saw it in his mind. He saw it in his mind, so therefore, it's the same as if saying, I realized, or I just thought of this. It's our aha moment, when the character realizes something that he or she has never thought of before. And what he saw was the gift. I want you to think about this and maybe make a note in your notes there about what the gift is. I mean, what is he talking about here? What does he mean by gift? Well, the answer to it is I want you to think about this. Imagine your grandpa or great-grandpa had never seen you play in a game or compete in whatever hobby that interests you, and all of a sudden he comes from out of state and he has a chance to see you for the first time. What could be the nicest thing that he and you could experience? I mean, for Webb, the nicest thing could be if his great-grandpa got to see him win the game, win the race. Okay? And there's a lot of pressure on there because what Crash is saying is, can Webb win the race? And the answer is, under normal circumstances, no. He's not that good a runner. What would it take for him to win the race? Well, the answer is, Crash, who's probably going to win, is going to have to purposely lose the race. Okay, so let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Before we go on, we don't have to limit ourselves just to aha moments here, because we could put in contrasts and contradictions too. Let's put one of those in. So go to your location. I think now you're on column 4 or row 4 here. Row 4. You can put the same exact location as you did for row 3, and then for your signpost this time put CC, contrast and contradiction. What is it? Think about it. The contrast and contradiction here is that we were expecting Crash to bully Webb. But now all of a sudden he's thinking about doing something nice for him. We didn't expect that. Character acts in a way that we do not expect. Okay? The character acts in a way that we do not expect. Okay, so let's look at that and let's go on then to the last paragraph. Last paragraph. Let's go, boys, said the coach. A voice, last section, I should say. A voice closer to me said, good luck. It was Webb, sticking out his dorky hand, smiling that old dorky smile of his. No button. I shook his hand, and it occurred to me that because he was always eating my dust, the dumb fish cake had never won a real race and probably didn't know how. And now there wasn't time. Don't forget to lean, I told him. His face went blank. The coach called, ready? I got down, feet in the blocks, right knee on the tracks, thumbs and forefinger on the chalk, eyes straight down, and right then, for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I wanted to win. Set, knee up, rear up, eyes up. The coach says the most important thing here is to focus your mind. You are a coiled steel spring, ready to dart out at the sound of the gun. So what comes into my head? Ollie the one-armed octopus. He didn't disappear until the gun went off. I was behind not only Webb, but everybody. No problem. Within 10 strides, I picked up 3 of them. That left Webb. He was farther ahead of me than usual, but that was because of my rotten start. At the halfway mark, where I usually passed him, he was still ahead, and I still didn't know if I wanted to win. I gassed it. The gap closed. I could hear him puffing like a second set of footsteps. Cinder flecks from his feet pecked at my shins. I was still behind. The finish line was closing. I kicked in the afterburners. 10 meters from the white string, we were shoulder to shoulder, breath to breath, grandson to great grandson, and it felt new. It felt good. Not being behind, not being ahead, but being even. And just like that, a half breath from the white string, I knew. There was no time to turn to him. I just barked it out, lean. He leaned, he threw his chest out, he broke the string, he won. All right. So there, I want you to take, and I want you to list for yourself, and I'll look over your papers. I want you to list for yourself what you think this aha moment is in this last section, okay? So you're going to list that next. That'll be the fifth row on your note and notice log here for this story, okay? So make sure you put the location, you'll put aha moment, and then tell what it is in the notes about it, okay? So it's a good story. There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot to make you think about. All right, so I'll let you finish this, and then the other thing that I want you to do is I want you to fill out 3 more columns, just like I had you do last time with the contrasts and contradictions. I want you to come up with something from a book you're reading, or a television show you watch, or a video game you play, or some conversation that's happened in your everyday, regular life that shows someone having an aha moment. So you can just put, for location, you can put the name of the TV show or the book, and then tell it's going to be an aha moment, and then just tell what it is. Okay, so that's going to help me identify whether you understand that aha moment is when the character, the character realizes something that he or she has never thought of before. And don't forget that when you see it, you want to ask yourself, how might this change the story? I mean, when we get to the end of this, how is it going to change the relationship between these 2 boys? It might completely alter the way the story ends. Thanks. Hope you do well. If you have any questions, be sure to email me at wellsdj@hubston.k12.il.us. Don't forget to like this and hit subscribe. And what is that we're supposed to do? Enable our notifications so that all the YouTube people out there can see it or something. Anyway, all right. Talk to you later.